branding a country is telling the story of today of what we have, the good things we have today, through the eyes of our vision of tomorrow. Positioning is creating the vision of tomorrow today. So for the next session, I would like to invite Avi Rimon, an advocate and a legal expert from Glusman & Co., who's also an ex-Motorolan.
More than 80% of Earth's population has today access to mobile services. Mobile data today is booming, and we're anticipating that about tens times more in its growth. But at the same time, mobile operator revenue and profits are cut. The load on the network is tremendous. And the network performance is starting to deteriorate. When texting and voice call are another app in the store, there is no doubt that we are in the middle of a crossroad. So we gathered here a super group to share with us the thoughts about the future and the role of the Israeli high-tech industry in it. So our first speaker is one of our hosts, Professor Matias, the founder and the managing director of Google's R&D Center in Israel, and the senior director in Google Research Organization. He has done a pioneering work on big data, which he received the Goodell Prize and was elected ACM Fellow. He also founded and leads today the Google's Campus TLV. So please welcome Professor Matias.
Everybody, first I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to everybody to this event. Great privilege for me and myself to host such a distinguished and honorable crowd. So what I was asked to talk about are to address a few questions, which are I quite often get these questions from people I meet, which are essentially why are we here? Why are we here? What do we do here? What does it mean beyond kind of what we develop here? So I'll try to give kind of a glimpse into that. And in a way, I actually, some of these questions are exactly what I asked when I was offered to start a center here some 6.5 years ago. I asked, why do we want to build a center in Israel? Actually, 2 centers in Israel. At the time, we started out as 2 separate centers. And the answer I got was, well, the talent, the innovation, the reputation. So obviously, we have to thank for some of the players that have been here longer than us, and many engineers who created some of this reputation worldwide. Obviously, some of the players here, Moody's and Intel team, and I saw Dad here, and IBM, and many others already helped us create some of this reputation. On the second question of what do we want to build here, I got the answer, well, we'd like you to figure it out, which was obviously a great opportunity and a great ride. So let me give a kind of a glimpse of on some of these questions. So a brief history, we started out in 2006, 2 separate centers. We combined them into a single strategic center in 2009, and we grew quite rapidly. We're now about 250 in the R&D center in both Tel Aviv and Haifa. And also we have here, of course, the amazing business team center that Mir is heading. Now, when we ask ourselves what we do, this is, by the way, the office in Haifa, and these pictures kind of are quite commonly shown in many places, and often I get a question, so does anybody do any work here? So let me assure you that we're quite serious at what we do, in addition to having fun. Essentially, what we're up to is building global products. We're leading essentially most of the efforts that we're doing. We have typically full ownership of the kind of stuff that we build. And we are an integral part of the global engineering team at Google. And one goal that we set up early on is to also work very closely with the community on the various aspects of that. So let me try to very briefly touch on some of those. So first, about what we do. One of our biggest efforts in Israel now is about search. And search, as you know, that's one of the technologies that Google is working on. Search is more dynamic than ever, in fact. Search is changing rapidly, and the mission of search is to address what users need, and that's kind of a goal that is an aspirational goal that we're working towards that, and we're privileged to have one of the core teams here in Israel. So some examples of kind of technologies built out here, and by no means is comprehensive, but auto-completion. You start typing your query, and actually now you're getting instantly the full result in combination of other technologies, obviously. And similarly, many other questions that you may ask. We're now actually getting into new domain, which is even more important when we get into the mobile area, which is addressing questions right to the point. You ask a question, you'd like to have an answer. If I actually ask my mobile a question such as, should I take an umbrella tomorrow?
Partly cloudy.
So anyway, this is an opportunity to, we're now getting into the situation that many more searches are actually asked by mobile, they are spoken, and we have the privilege to actually build some of the technologies of answering some of these knowledge cards on weather, finance, flights information, and many more. If you follow the Olympics, even for the geeks, a calculator asking questions, showing two-dimensional, three-dimensional charts. So essentially providing a great experience for users who are searching. And as I mentioned, search is now more dynamic than ever. In fact, we're now moving into a world where we try to understand the knowledge of the world, building something called the knowledge graph, and certainly we're part of that effort, alongside, of course, with the amazing teams worldwide. Just a glimpse into some other technologies. Google Trends is a way to actually get a barometer of what people are searching for. It's a pretty powerful tool for everybody to get a sense of what's on people's mind, what people are interested in. And this is heavily used. Actually, there's a full discipline now by economists and social sciences and others called nowcasting, where you try to predict the situation which already happened as you're going to learn using the kind of regular methodologies within weeks to get it actually right in time. Many scholarly papers written on that. Just kind of a nice example of how Google Trends looked like at the election, close to the election times. So you can see for yourself. And many other kind of disciplines. This is an example for a feature in Gmail that kind of saves my life every other days, alerts you when you send something to the wrong persons. And other technologies such as how to deliver work with the networks, deliver data on the Google networks. This is one of the largest networks in the world. Huge engineering problems, very fascinating problems that we can actually leverage on some of the engineering talent out there. So to facilitate many of those stuff, the reason why it's a successful venture, I would say, is that in a way the Google culture and the Israeli innovation culture are kind of a match made in heaven. The approach, typically we're looking for those strong engineers which both have a very strong education, strong experience, and not less important is the right attitude, the can-do attitude, the drive to think out of the box, to break boundaries, to reinvent things, and this is a great. These are great qualifications, of course, for today's high-tech industry at large, and certainly for pushing forward some internet technologies. I'd like to give kind of a glimpse into one of the projects I'm very excited about. Started out by an initiative of a single engineer, which was essentially trying to see how can he bring collections online. And he brought online collections of the Holocaust Museum in Yad Vashem, 130,000 photos made online, enabling people to comment on them, to provide personal stories. We actually have some Googlers who provided their personal stories. Some of them actually featured in a New York Times article. And and subsequently, we brought in, we thought, how can we bring other collections online? And recently, we brought up in collaboration with the Israel Museum and the Israel Antiquity Authority, some of the Dead Sea Scrolls, including the full Isaiah book, including 10 Commandments and some 5,000 fragments of scrolls out there. And we didn't stop there, actually asking ourselves, how can we take any collection online? Bringing online the Nelson Mandela collection, but also setting up an initiative which is now driven by a pretty big team in Paris called the Cultural Institute, which is all about bringing collections online, and that combined with another amazing initiative of bringing artwork online, museums online, the art project. Finally, I'd like to mention, I mentioned earlier that we put it as a goal to work with the community, to see how to work with the developers, with the education, and our very important initiative, I'm sure you will hear about some of them by other speakers. This is one initiative that started out as a grassroots initiative by two female engineers about encouraging high school girls to go to the science and technology. They managed within 4 years to influence over thousands of high school girls with pretty amazing results, all about kind of changing perception, about getting some role models, and this is something we're trying to work with other companies as well to expand, to see how to do that, and also influence both girls and boys. Also working with other sectors, underrepresented sectors in Israel, and working with academia about research grants and to facilitate research. Obviously, I'm personally very excited about it, being myself from a scientific research community. And finally, in order to facilitate many of these activities, we recently established the so-called Campus Tel Aviv. One floor, in the 26th floor of this building, we have a so-called campus, which is fully dedicated, a full floor dedicated to hosting, to be a technology hub for entrepreneurs, for startups. It essentially has certain ingredients. One of them is to have an event space. We have currently about 11 events per week of bringing together entrepreneurs, bringing together activities, trying to mentor entrepreneurs and developers. Another pillar of that program is something called the Launchpad, where we work in partnership with incubators and accelerators, where they bring their startups in for a week or two of kind of a boot camp, covering the basic stuff that you need in early stage. So this is one way in which we try to provide value and do it at scale. Just a few days ago, actually, we hosted here developers of underrepresented community. As you can see, thousands of developers that actually trying to get some traction. This was in conjunction with Kamatech. So with that, actually, let me thank you all again for coming over here. And I think that having the kind of the spirit of representation, of innovation, of Israel worldwide is something we're very passionate about, and very privileged to be able to be part of this initiative. Thank you very much.